Results from Oxford University and AstraZeneca's vaccine trial shows it protects 70% of people. That increased to 90% when the dose was adjusted. US President-elect Joe Biden has begun selecting members of his cabinet. His team includes Antony Blinken as Secretary of State, John Kerry as Climate Czar, and Alejandro Mayorkas to lead the Department of Homeland Security. Israeli media say the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has travelled to Saudi Arabia for secret talks with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Saudi officials have denied a meeting took place. And the former French President Nicolas Sarkozy has appeared in court at the start of his corruption trial. Prosecutors say he tried to influence an investigation into funding of his 2007 presidential election campaign. He denies the charges.
Markets in Asia closed higher and European shares rose in early trading as markets weighed worries about the spreading pandemic against encouraging news about potential COVID-19 vaccines. AstraZeneca and the University of Oxford today said clinical trials showed that their vaccine candidate was up to 90% effective in preventing infection. It is the third Western developed vaccine to show encouraging results in large trials after those from Moderna and a joint venture between Pfizer and Germany's BioNTech. At the G20 summit this weekend, leaders of the world's major economies concluded by pledging to cooperate on efforts to fight the coronavirus and revive the global economy. The virtual meeting came as the pandemic continued to surge in Europe and the U.S. On Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met Saudi Arabia's crown prince in the kingdom, according to two Saudi government advisors, in what is believed to be the first known meeting of the historic enemies amid a U.S. push to normalize ties between them. We're reporting President-elect Joe Biden intends to nominate his campaign's top foreign policy advisor to be Secretary of State. Antony Blinken served as Deputy Secretary of State during President Obama's second term. Blinken supports Biden's plans to recommit to global alliances and agreements that President Trump has quit or criticized. Biden is expected to announce other cabinet picks this week.
Hong Kong's key pro-democracy leaders were remanded in custody after they pleaded guilty in court on Monday. They'd been charged with organizing and inciting an unauthorized rally near police headquarters in June of last year. The three leaders are Joshua Wong, Agnes Chow, and Ivan Lam. Before appearing in court, Wong told reporters that this case would draw the world's attention to the arbitrary power of the criminal justice system, whose impartiality is manipulated by Beijing's crackdown, and systemic violence in greater detail.
I'm persuaded neither prison bars, nor election bans, nor any other arbitrary power will stop us from activism. What we are doing now is to explain the value of freedom to the world.
Of course, I feel fear because of all uncertainties, including today's court decision. But I hope that all of you would not forget those protesters who actually sacrificed even more than us.
Their sentencing is scheduled for December 2nd. The three were senior members of the pro-democracy group Demosisto. Hong Kong's pro-democracy movements are likely to face an uphill struggle with the detention of their vocal, internationally known leaders. Prefectural governors across Japan have called on the central government to quickly lay out concrete conditions regarding the partial suspension of programs aimed at boosting travel and dining out. The prefectural leaders held an emergency meeting on Monday. The government has said it'll impose some restrictions on the programs as the coronavirus is rapidly spreading in the country. It may limit new travel bookings to areas where infections are expanding. It may also suspend the issuance of meal coupons. The governors said these conditions are not clear.
Even if the Go-To Travel program is suspended, it is better to apply the new measures to designated areas rather than to the entire prefecture.
The government has spoken only about trips to areas where the virus is spreading. We'd like to hear more concrete details about trips starting from such areas.
The governors then drew up emergency proposals. The requests include limiting areas where the programs are suspended and having the government offer compensation for cancellation fees. The governors are also urging the central government to swiftly draw up guidelines on coupons and reward point programs under its Go to Eat dining campaign. They plan to submit the proposals soon. Over 130,000 cases have now been confirmed across the country. More than 300 patients are in serious condition, and over 2,000 people have died. NHK has learned that receipts from hotels in Tokyo where former Prime Minister Abe Shinzo held dinner parties for his support organization suggest that groups related to Abe covered a considerable amount of the costs. The dinner events were held on the nights before Abe's annual cherry blossom viewing parties held from 2013 to 2019. Public prosecutors appear to be aware of the existence of the documents. They're questioning Abe's government-paid secretary, who heads Abe's support group. Criminal complaints from around the country have been filed by a group of lawyers and others. They allege that the dinner parties were not mentioned in Abe's political funding reports, in violation of the Political Funds Control Law. Against this backdrop, NHK has learned from multiple sources that 2 hotels that served as party venues have produced receipts and itemized statements listing all the costs. The total amount over 5 years is said to be more than $192,000. When fees paid by the participants are deducted, it appears likely that Abe's office covered at least $77,000. Abe has repeatedly told the Diet that all the expenses of the parties were paid for by the participants themselves, as the events generated no income and incurred no expenses. He insisted there were no income or expenses generated from the events, and therefore nothing that needed to be included in his political funding reports. He also denied that the hotels issued any receipts. Abe's office released a comment on Monday saying the office is complying with calls to cooperate in investigations following the criminal complaints that have been filed. The statement says it refrains from providing details. It's been almost 1 year since a well-known Japanese doctor and aid worker was killed in Afghanistan. Nakamura Tetsu had spent years providing humanitarian assistance to help rebuild the war-ravaged country. A memorial was held at his birthplace on Monday. Nakamura dedicated himself to reconstruction in Afghanistan as a representative of the Japanese NGO Peshawar Kai. He was shot and killed in Jalalabad last December. A memorial was held on Monday at his alma mater, Kyushu University in Fukuoka City, Western Japan. His family and supporters were among some 450 mourners.
My life has changed since I went to pick up my father. The year has passed in the blink of an eye. It's a family's hope that the project will continue.
A video message from Afghan President Ashraf Ghani was shown at the memorial. Peshawar Kai has resumed its work on waterways and agricultural support in Afghanistan after a temporary halt. The South Korean government has approved a veteran politician, Kang Chang-yu, as its new ambassador to Japan. The presidential office made the announcement on Monday. Kang, who's 68 years old, had served 4 terms as a lawmaker of the ruling Democratic Party and is said to be close to President Moon Jae-in. Kang headed the South Korea-Japan Parliamentarians Union for about 3 years until May this year. He also earned a PhD from the University of Tokyo. A spokesperson at the presidential office told reporters that on the occasion of the launch of the Suga Yoshihide administration, Kang will help produce a breakthrough in efforts to resolve pending bilateral issues and establish forward-looking relations. Presidential office sources stress the appointment reflects President Moon's wishes to improve ties with Japan. Paris is currently under lockdown, but the coronavirus can't stop the city's iconic Champs-Élysées from providing a healthy dose of Christmas spirit. 400 trees have been lit up along the avenue's about 2-kilometer stretch. The illuminations usually draw large crowds, but strict measures mean there are much fewer people this year. Still, the lights are going down well among the capital's residents.
I could feel a Christmas atmosphere for the first time this year. This is very precious.
It's refreshing because the restrictions mean it's been a while since something like this was held along the Champs-Élysées.
Sunday's event was streamed online along with messages sent in from around the world.